Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. As part of our Customer Success Initiative, today is the third in a series of webinars that we aim to deliver on a monthly basis between product training, product updates, and tips and tricks to help maximize your use of the platform. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation or have some feedback, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll answer as many as we can at the end. If we cannot get to all the questions, we'll answer them separately by email after the webinar. All are welcome. My name is Dunphy. I work in our newly formed customer success team and have been with Aphix for the last 6 years. For those of you who have joined in our last two webinar sessions, we have demoed our new management interface and video page builder tools. While these tools are very important and quite central to how we will be delivering today's content, the curriculum for today is based off of queries that have arisen from one-on-one training sessions and support questions that have been logged over time. The purpose of the session is to deliver a practical block of learning with good outcomes as opposed to showing the basics of using the CMS tools. In this session, we'll be covering the following: easily creating side-by-side images and text, reviewing hex colors and how to change them to match already in place styling. We'll be showing how to manage countdown timers using HTML on banners in a really simplistic way. We'll be running a comparison of what is the best approach to use news item templates and why. And we'll be showing how to create landing pages for categories rich in content. The benefits and takeaways will be that you'll be more aligned with the content, which will help you save time. It will show how you can use third-party tools to help self-service your approach to creating this content. You'll be able to plan for advance and have a better understanding using HTML in small regards. And what's the best template for your content that you're looking to generate? And you'll be able to easily reproduce over and over again landing pages for categories. We'll be using one of our demonstration pages with some preset content, such as preset banners and some pages, while some pages we will have in place already where content may be there, but we'll just amend it using Visual Page Builder to show. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to jump over now to the demo page. Again, if you can add any questions to the GoToWebinar question box, we'll come to these at the very end. Thank you. Then you'll notice that we're using the same demonstration page that we used for both the management interface and for the Visual Page Builder. The first thing we're going to be doing is creating some side-by-side images and text. In the past, this was managed either in a CMS panel where images would manually be moved around in a bit of a clunky fashion, where maybe tables had to be displayed or otherwise. And sometimes to get that alignment, especially for mobile, could be quite awkward and a bit annoying and maybe frustrating at times. Recently, blocks have made it easier to generate the correct spacing for this content. However, with Visual Page Builder, it now makes it even so much easier to generate content for desktop and mobile, as you'll see here. The sample content we're using today is to take a current text-based page and to add in images side by side, but create the same sort of page from scratch using Visual Page Builder. So if we navigate to our About Us page, you can see here that this is just a text-based page using a general template. We know that by when we click Edit Page on the bottom right-hand toolbar. You can see we're using a general template where the content is added into the page here. Previously, you may have had to, like I said, split the page out into two, and you may have to kind of put images over here on the right and move them up and down with the space bar, or put in small tables, and it's fine, but it can be very persnickety and awkward and quite time consuming. And then when you're kind of have the finished article on desktop, sometimes it may or may not translate to mobile in a good way. So what we're going to do here is First of all, we're going to create a very similar page. So what we will do is navigate back to pages. I'm going to create a very similar page scratch. I'm going to create a page called About rather than About Us. Just keep it on the same sort of level. We're going to set this to be a full width page because we want to utilize all the space that's available to us on the page. It doesn't really matter what we're going to set as the parent right now because we're not going to be showing this in the menu just to begin with. We'll set this to be published. It doesn't matter what content we have because we're here because we're going to be putting a block underneath this using the visual page builder. Sometimes the link to generate and the URL might take just a minute or so. Just give that a sec. So I'm going to click the link to open up this page. As you'll see, there will be nothing on it. We'll remove the breadcrumbs in that here as well. So we'll jump back in here and then click into extended section. We don't want to show a breadcrumb. We don't really want header spacing. We do want to hide the sidebar and we do want to hide the title. Refresh the page again. And there we go. So now we're going to open up the visual editor. While that's opening, I'm just going to jump back into the actual of the current About Us page. The reason is we're going to rob some of the text-based content to use in our demonstration version here. So we'll open up that. Now, we'll just leave that open just for the moment. Now, so I suppose what we wanted to do is to show how you're going to create images and put them side by side. So depending on the size of the text, the amount of text and the size of the image you're using, that does at times, that's the only thing that you'll need to be conscious of. If you have 100 lines of text and you have a relatively small image and then you have them stacked underneath it, it's not going to align very well. What we've done here is we've taken a modestly sized image and maybe an average amount of text, although that could be done small, that could be shortened down to give a better feel here. But for the purposes of this, we'll just plow ahead. So the first thing we will do is we're going to choose a full column, one column. We're going to take the CMS section and drop it in here. We do want it to be full width, so we're using the maximum amount of the page. We don't want it to be contained. We want a small bit of padding on the left and right, but we want a small bit of padding up the top as well. I'll give it a rename, and then we'll jump back into the block type that we're going to use. So in the content version, remember before that I mentioned you'd have to, maybe beforehand, you would be dropping in a text. Well, before Visual Page Builder was in place, you would be doing the equivalent of a text block, except it would be a text editor and you're just moving those things around. Now you can simply drop in a block for image and text. Straight away, that's got the sizing correct. And then from there, mobile, tablet, or otherwise, you can chop and change how that works. As you can see on mobile, the sample block we have here probably goes about right if you wanted your image to be on the left or indeed to be on the right. But you can also put those things up above or below. So in this case here, we're just going to work with the desktop version just to begin with. So in the text section, I'm going to click on Open Rich Editor. Now, I could just start typing away here in the editor if I wanted, and that's fine. Or I can copy and paste something in from the text editor again if I wanted. You'll notice though, in some cases, when you're using like one editor to another editor, if I was to say copy this and drop that in there, it goes in okay. But just in case there was any maybe specific styling you were taking from somewhere else that you wanted to come across that maybe wasn't coming across just by pasting it out from another editor, the best or recommended thing here would be, if you have access to it, would be click on this little symbol up here called HTML code, and you're going into the source editor. Jump back into the CMS section here, and then navigate down to source editor. Again, not completely necessary all the time, but if you have access to it and if it's something that you do want to keep all the styling that's in place there already, it's a good thing to know how to do this. We're just going to copy this part here, because we know, we can see the heading here, our global opportunity, under that H2 tag. That was the start of the next piece of text that we're going to be taking there in a moment. So we're just going to be copying this block of text, put in the HTML version, copy that. And then if I paste that in, click on the HTML code, and I can see it's brought over all of the little small bits of styling that you would have missed had you have just pasted it directly from a text editor. You know, it has all the correct hyperlinks, it has the correct spacing and things that are bold and things like that. So it's probably advised, if you can do that, when you can do that, to do that, unless of course you're just typing it from scratch, and again, that's fine. So when I hit save, there's my text. You can see here that the image space is consistently sized with the height of the text. Now, beforehand, what you would have been doing to add in an image, you would have been adding an image into the file library, and then you would have been going into this text editor here, and under content, you would have been clicking this button here to locate an image, and then you would have been browsing your images to add them into the text editor. It's a little bit more simplistic now. So now, click on the image button here and browse your machine. So I just have a couple of sample images that I have ready here. So straight away, I have my text on the right, I have my image on the left. I can augment that if I want to. Keep that from right to left just for the moment. And then if I wanted to chop and change that for a mobile desktop, I can. As you can see, because you're doing this if you were doing this from mobile, it would be advised maybe to just have a bit of again, there's no right or wrong answer. If you want to have a long string of text or a small string of text, it's completely up to yourself. But I suppose from mobile, at least, it would be well advised to keep the for images like this, maybe the text at the top or the text at the bottom, because if you start putting it to the right, it's fine, but it just stretches it out quite a lot and it maybe doesn't look quite so good. So the next thing we will do is go back into here. We're going to take another column. As Neno made reference to in our last session, do make sure that when you're dropping in the column, you don't drop it kind of in or above, or that you're not just adding in the additional, you're not dropping in another image and text block directly inside this. Otherwise, you'll have all the same controls and they won't be independent of each other. They will be, you want them to be independent of each other, so that when you want to change something on one particular section, you can. So you can see here now that has its own space independent of the top one. You could, of course, have just dropped one directly in there if you think that everything is going to be under the same controls of what's full width, what's not full width, what's contained, what's not. So you can make that choice at the point of creation. So we want this to be full width. We don't want it to be contained. And I think, yeah, we wanted small bit of padding. I'm going to drop another image and text in here. We'll do a switcheroo. There we go. So straight away, I flipped over having the text on the left-hand side. I'm going to quickly jump back into here. Notice that I'm just taking, again, I'm just using this as a marker, looking for our background. So I'm taking the content or the HTML just previous to our background, opening up the rich text editor, click on the div, paste that in. There we go. Hit save. Click on the image, choose the image. There we go. Same jobby again. One column. Same thing again. Last image goes here. Open the rich text editor. Click on the div. Back into my editor. Everything from this H2 tag, our background. Copy that. Paste that in. Click preview. Hit save. There we go. So now if I come out of that page, there we go, a full page. And if I wanted to amend that again, if I wanted to tighten it up on the left-hand side, I could. Tighten, go back in there. I could have made it not full width, not contained, and then that could have kind of compressed it all down even further. This information, when you're looking at it on the page, it's usually not there until you clear your system cache. So while you see it in front of you, until you clear your system cache, customers won't see that content. Next is, this is a quick one. This has been asked a number of times when somebody is wants to add color backgrounds to their web shop content, and they say, of course they can go through an arduous task of maybe asking somebody on our support team, or maybe asking somebody external to get the correct hex colors that they might want to match up to have consistency across the site, or to match up to branding. But the easiest approach, rather than doing that, or than using any expensive pieces of software, there's plenty of free tools out there to do this. But the simplest way of getting a hex color we've found is to use a very easy to find Chrome add-on. For the purposes of this, we use one called Hex Color Picker. This is free to use on Google Chrome as an extension. So just to show how this would work, I'm just going to jump to the page here. Now, you can see there that we have two blocks, a categories section, and it's hard to make it out now, but we actually have a premium feature here called Deep Search. Deep Search is what allows you to filter through high complexity variation of finding part numbers and things like that. So it looks a bit just, very bland, and you need something to kind of break up that styling. So what we will do here is this small extension up here, that's the hex color picker. I click on that. You can see here I actually have some saved colors from before. So just to show this, I'm going to go click the button. There we go. So you can see I'm selected just the yellow that's in our navbar. And I click again and go up here. If you can see there, it shows what the hex color is, E7B857. So it's just taking note of that. Next thing I'm going to do is open back up my visual page editor. So I'm going to scroll on down to that categories block. So I'm just going to click on the correct section. So notice I'm clicking on the section that the categories are in rather than the categories themselves. So when I select that, it gives me some options. like a course ad and a background image if I wanted. But all I really want to do is choose the background color. I'm just going to copy that background color from up here. Paste it in here. There I go. Do the same thing here on deep search. Again, there I go. This can be handy for, maybe if, say, you wanted the consistency of, your add to cart buttons, your account buttons, things like that. And, or again, if your branding logo has a particular color in it, you can use that tool to get that exact text color from that as well. And then, paste in what the color is specifically so you can keep that consistency across the site. I know it's only a small thing, but we found that it can be quite helpful sometimes. Next is something that's come up again through our support team on numerous occasions. There are a number of templates that we would utilize for displaying content like blog posts, product information, things like that, but that are not like, it's not necessarily like catalog information where it's a product added to the cart. It's just something that you want to display or convey to your customers, how-to videos, how-to bits of information, things like that. While there are a number of options in terms of creating these pages, what we found is the two best approaches would be to use either your parents page as a news item or a news listing page or an accordion page. We take one of the parent pages, latest news. It's set to be a news listing page. We can see that because it is listing each of the sub pages here. Now, a news listing page, you can also set the parent to be a accordion. Save that. Let's take a look at what it looks like now. There is no best version here. It's really just a personal preference on how you want to display this. Maybe some you might think looks a bit better on mobile, some looks a little better on desktop. Again, there is no best version here, but perhaps depending on the type of information that you want to show off to your customers, it might be better to show them in one or the other. For example, as an accordion, you can have many articles on the same page as you would with the news listing page, except when you click on the drop down, you immediately see the content inside. So this could be good for somebody who wants to quickly read through a lot of articles and have less clicks. It's the sub pages themselves is probably the most important thing. So there's two main things you should set sub pages as. You have general listing and a news item. The general listing page allows a full page of content to be added without a present header image. So if we take something like, so take this article here, the one that's titled "What GDPR Means to B2B Companies." So when I click on this article, you can see here that there's the general, it's the content that's added in to that article as a general listing. So if I click on the content, you can see here that the content is inserted, whether that's an image, whether that's a frame, video, whatever the case might be, that will display directly in there. The only thing that is a little bit of a negative in terms of article would be that while this allows for the exact content that you're adding in to be inserted, when you look back on the parent page, initially if you create that template, it doesn't allow for as a new listing page, it wants to display the date that the article was published. So if you look on the general listing options, there is no option to set a publish date. Whereas if you were looking at this for something that's a news item, you have the option to display what that published date is. Now, it might seem like an initial minus. What you can do is you could change the template to be on general listing. You can change that to be a news item. Now, you do have the option of a publish date. When you go back here and look back at this, now because it's a news item, this could be a pro or a con. Again, it depends on how you look at it. A news item, it will display share options on the page if you want to share it to a particular social platform. It has shortcuts on the right hand side to the other news items. It's probably more associated with being a blog post than anything else. But it also displays the title image that you have applied to that page. So if I click on the image here, there it is there. As you notice in the general listing, it doesn't come included. Not everyone wants that to be included. So, if you have images already in the content, for example, you would have, the title image and the secondary image, and it's not something that everyone wants. But as I said, you can get around this by setting the page to be a news item page just briefly, change the date, or add in the date rather. Hit save. Now I have my date. Now I can also just change the template back to be a general template. I'm going to have that general template in place. It means that I now have my date, but I also can keep it as a general template page that has the heading inside that article, or rather the parent image no longer inside that article. So it's just a little quick way of getting the best out of both worlds. Now we're going to create a landing page for categories. You can, by default, if you click on a category, whether it's from our mega menu or if you have your category links going across the top right, the top of the navigation bar, you can set a category, of course, to display as a category grid, a listing page, which we're looking at now, or you can point it to an other page. You might think, why would I want to point it to another page? You can point it to another page because you might want something like this. So say if I click on the gaming section here, so this is pointing me to a content page that has a full width hero banner, a little blurb or a little intro to some of the featured products that you might want to show off to a customer of that category, and then each relevant subcategory. That's just a sample of what we have prepared for today, and that I'm going to show you how you can create that and then replicate that quickly across multiple pages. It might be something else as well for somebody in DIY trade or selling tools or construction materials, that maybe, of course, having maybe a section for how to, DIY videos or whatever the case might be, that's fine. But you could also maybe display this sort of content by putting in blocks of videos. So, you're having this page, you're showing the featured products, but then you're also showing intro how-to videos on how to join things together or how to do whatever the case might be from that perspective of what the product is. So if we take something like bathrooms, because the one I just showed them a minute ago on the listing page. So what we're going to do is go to our pages section here first of all. You do need to create the initial parent page, the initial page. You can see here I've created that to begin with. All I've done is created a page, called it bathroom. I've set it to be full width. I'll set it to be published. There doesn't need to be any content in that full width page. And we don't want it to show in the menu. And I suppose you would be as best off to hide the title, hide the sidebar, yes. No header spacing, and you do not want to show the breadcrumb. We're going to click on this link here now, which is just a blank page. I'm going to open up my visual editor. So I suppose we'll replicate what's kind of in place already just to be consistent. So I'm going to put in a full width section. It's full width, not contained, no padding at the top or the bottom. I'm going to call this hero section. Go back in here. I'm going to go down to banner. I'm going to drop in a slider here. The banner that we're going to choose is bathroom. There we go. So next, what we will do is just click in there, make sure all is okay. Transition is set to slide. We'll set to 4 seconds apart from each image. Pagination, lead drag, and next what we will do is add in a new section. And on this section, we will choose a text intro. Open the editor. Add in another full width section here. There we go. And we'll put in a product slider. Add some products. You could, if you had products preset to be featured, you can do that. I'm just going to add in some products that I know here are the bathrooms. So one there. And we want this 4 products, so we'll show 4 products. We'll set the columns in the desktop to 4. And there we go. If there was more products, for example, we set 10 if we wanted, and then it would kind of animate those in across. So add 1 or 2 more just to kind of show that. We show bathroom showroom selling bathroom equipment and coffee. There we go. And if we wanted to configure that for mobile, you click on the mobile version of it. It kind of just it knows that it's a mobile device, so it wants to just do one at a time anyway. But if you wanted, of course, you could set it to be 2 if you wished. But it doesn't really look very tidy, so it's probably best to just leave that to be 1. But essentially, what you have now is a very, very quickly set up page that's created as an intro. Now we're going to point this page to a category. So now if I go back into my catalog, I'm going to look at a category. That category is bathrooms, of course. So when I edit that category, I'm just going to go back here and just copy that URL. You don't need to copy the full domain in the URL, just the path after your domain. So it would be yoursite.com, then / whatever the rest of the path is. Click on the more section. And then instead of listing page, set it to category or to other page. Paste in the link. And then hit save. To be consistent, I'm going to clear my cache. I'm going to jump back in here. Now, when I click on bathroom now, it brings me to a landing page for a category. I can view the intro or the blurb or the video or whatever that might be. You have a sliding product slider that's moving from left to right. You could have had a category intro beneath it, again, just for purposes of time. We won't do that now, but it's very much the same sort of thing. So that's how you would do that. In terms of like easily replicating that, as you can see here, we have this across gaming, computing, phones, TVs, and so forth. What you could do each time, rather than, of course, use the visual editor every time to make this one at a time. And as you can see, I did that in a few minutes. It's very, very simple to do. But what you could do as well is in the page section, choose one of your pages and then duplicate. When you're duplicating it, you will duplicate it. It will call it a copy. When it's a copy, then you can just rename it. So it will be selected, duplicate, bathroom copy, then from bathroom copy, edit it, and then rename it. It takes all of the subpages with it too. So instead of it now being bathroom copy, change it to be whatever your other category is, or rather whatever your other landing page would be, rather. And then that's it. So you're cloning the vast majority of the body of that content, saving you a few minutes each time. And then you can just rename each subpage. It's still going to do the exact same thing as all the other parent and subpages do. And then you just have to go into the specific category and then point that to that specific page. Now, the last thing we're going to run through here is we won't be going through, it's not an exercise in HTML. It's just to show that you can create something smart on a page while using a bit of HTML and using additional sources online without having to create HTML countdown clock from scratch, for example. So this has come up a few times over the last 2 years because Black Friday, for example, has become more popular. And what was happening was some of our customers were setting up Black Friday pages very much last minute and not really getting it to be what they wanted it to be because they were quite rushed. So what we're going to show here is how to make, again, a landing page that we've just created, also to using banners, whether you're using product sliders in advance or additional blocks to show off maybe products that are available for sale or for Black Friday or something like that, or a holiday event or sale event, whatever that might be. We're going to show how you can easily make that, but then also place a countdown timer using an iframe on a banner set. The first thing we do is we'll go to pages. I've created a page already. Similar as before, and this parent page is full width, has to be full width. We don't want it to show on the menu, or at least not now. You can afterwards, of course, if eventually you want that to show as a link in your navigation bar. So that's entirely up to you. In this case here, it's published. So when I link here, this will open up. This page is blank. When I open up the visual editor, what I'm going to do is add in a full width section. Full width, not contained, and the background color, purely because we're talking about Black Friday, we're just going to keep any background. If depending on any particular devices use this, it's set to be full width, but just in case maybe you're ever dealing with a banner that's smaller than full width and you haven't set that to stretch, we're just going to set the background to be black. We're going to go into our banners. So we'll drop in a banner. So it needs to be. This would be best to use a banner slider hero. The reason is if you choose a banner slider does not show any of the information you've added into the source in the banner section of the management interface. And I'll explain that now in a moment a little bit better. So you're best off to use a slider hero, even if it's not a banner that's going to be sliding per se. So if I click into banners, I'm going to choose the Black Friday one. That is pulling in banner in banners. So you're pointing a block to a banner. So this is already created. So I'm just showing you where this would be added into. If I click into Black Friday, edit, we can see here that earlier on today, I've added in an image. So this is an image that's locally stored on my own laptop here. So I would have went choose file, and there's the Black Friday banner that I would have added in. Now you can see it has a line hero only, but because I've chosen the banner slider hero, that's the reason why I was using that particular banner set in the visual page editor. Now in the source section here, I've added in an iframe. There's a website, timeanddate.com. This one here, in this site, it gives you the option to actually create a countdown clock for a website. Now you can use predetermined options here to display how you want to display the timer. You can see the preview in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. So by configuring how it's going to look, the position of the clock, if there's a background theme, if there's not a background theme, if you want to make the clock transparent, if you want to make the countdown clock or the size of it really big, if you want to change the font, if you want to specify the text rows, things like that, if you want to customize the different colors that the timer has, the top text, or anything like that, whatever the case might be. Obviously, it needs to fit inside with the styling of your banner. You click on Show HTML Countdown Timer. That's the iframe. So you need to copy this, store it somewhere for the time being. And here, again, once your banner is a banner slider hero, your banner is in place, you paste in the iframe into the source. I'm just using one that I had earlier on today because I've styled it how I want to fit into the banner. I'm just going to refresh my page. And you can see here what I've done is I've chosen the font that I want. I've selected the text that I want, like the styling of the clock, things like that, and I've set the background to be transparent, so it's not like a white background or a black background on top of another background. If I want to choose the size or shape of how that might be, that's fine. I could go back in here and then change the size of that iframe. So anything that's inside that iframe will display in that. Anything that's coming from the source, which is timeanddate.com, it will stay there. So it all gets configured on timeanddate.com. But if I want to change the size of that iframe to be any particular size or shape, I do that by amending that in here. The same could be said if you're adding in a form. If you're creating a form on another site or adding in a YouTube video, that's all contained in an iframe.